High heavens, enthralling night at the sea, never too late to meet. Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 99 based on novel. So let's start. The flesh on the two swannies came back, and they didn't feel that the carriage was heavy once more. They immediately exerted force, and pulled the treasured carriage back into the sky. The four maidens on the carriage saw their flesh recovering and couldn't help letting out sighs of relief. Star Sovereign Xiao's body also returned back to normal, and he said indifferently, "Fengju, not heeding the discipline of Yudu, to even dare go against high heavens. This place will be gotten rid of sooner or later." The treasured carriage continued to move forward along surging river, but only when the sky was turning bright did they see the end of great ruins that was over 1,000 miles away from them. Suddenly, a sword light rose from below and exploded in mid-air. Instantly, snow-bright lights burst forth, and they actually eclipsed the light from the sun. The swannies and the four maidens on the carriage immediately closed their eyes. When they opened them later, the four maidens cried out in astonishment. The world-shaking sword light had vanished, and in front of the carriage were majestic mountains and rivers. The towering peaks and precipitous ridges were unending. What was weird was that these mountains and rivers weren't there just a moment ago, but now were seemed to be floating on the clouds. It was as if they had grown out from the clouds. The rivers flowing out from the towering mountains and precipitous ridges were even giving off sounds of crashing water. There was even a waterfall running down from the cliffs, flowing down like jade. These green mountains and azure water floated among the clouds, and there was nothing abnormal about them. They didn't look like mirages. "Halt," Star Sovereign Xiao said slowly. The two swannies halted, and Star Sovereign Xiao stood up to look at the end of the mountains and rivers. Yet they stretched into the distance as if growing by themselves. The mountains in the clouds were majestic and vast, appearing continuously from below the clouds. Meanwhile, at the borders of the mountains and rivers were flashing sword lights that were hard to catch, but which couldn't deceive his eyes. This was as if someone was using a sword as a brush to draw out vast mountains and rivers. Old Handicapped is actually still alive. Star Sovereign Xiao revealed and smiled and said softly, "Go down. I have an old friend living here." The two swannies immediately pulled the treasured carriage to descend. When they reached the bottom of the clouds, the mountains and rivers also descended with them. The mountain and rivers lowered along with their pace, blocking the path in front of them all the time. Finally, the treasured carriage landed on the ground, and the mountains and rivers in the sky also became smaller and smaller, continuing to retract. When the mountains and rivers disappeared, a small village beside the river appeared in front of them. Star Sovereign Xiao looked through the pearl curtain, and saw a recliner at the entrance of this village. On the recliner lay an old man without four limbs. The recliner creaked as it swayed back and forth while the messy old man, without limbs, enjoyed the spring sun leisurely. "You are handicapped." Star Sovereign Xiao didn't get off the carriage. He simply spoke from behind the pearl curtains. "You don't have arms and you don't have legs, yet you still want to block my way. Aren't you overestimating yourself a little?" Village chief beamed at him as he continued swaying on the recliner. It seemed to be very comfortable for him to lie there as he said leisurely, "In that case, why don't you try? I have no arms and legs and only a few years of lifespan left, so you should definitely have the confidence to kill me, right?" Star Sovereign Xiao snorted coldly. "You don't have many years left to live, so you can't protect the new human emperor. However, I won't use my life to fight head-on with that disabled life of yours. If you don't dare to fight with your life, then return." Suddenly, village chief's vital chi transformed into arms and legs so he could stand up from the recliner. As he walked towards the treasured carriage, the two swannies instantly felt their blood run cold, and the four maidens on the carriage also revealed appalled expressions. In their eyes, the dry and thin old man's body became bigger and bigger, more and more majestic as he came closer. With a few steps, his body seemed to cover the heaven and earth, blocking their line of sight. You can't protect the new human emperor. Star Sovereign Xiao stood up, and the imperial canopy on the carriage started to spin. The pillars under the canopy became thicker and thicker, as well as taller and taller. As the imperial canopy expanded in the wind, the jade and pearls became bigger as well, as if they were stars that surrounded the Star Sovereign. The four maidens in front of him seemed incomparably small, and the two pure-blooded Swanis, which had huge bodies, also seemed pitifully small at this instant. THG. The sword from the maiden in yellow came out from its sheath and landed in Star Sovereign Xiao's hand. He swung his sword and met with the sword swung by the old man in front of him. The instant the two sword lights met, surging river was cut off and the water started flowing backward. The bright sword lights vanished with a flash. Where the sword lights had vanished, Village Chief was still sitting in the recliner and creaking as he swayed. Star Sovereign Xiao had also sat back down, and the size of the treasured carriage had returned back to normal. It was as if the giant and the sky full of stars had been just an illusion. I won't kill the human emperor, but other people will come. Star Sovereign Xiao looked at the elder lying in the chair across the pearl curtains, and said indifferently, "Some young people from high heavens will find him." Village Chief said lazily, "As long as it isn't you old farts, feel free to send them." Star Sovereign Xiao looked at him deeply and suddenly said, "Return to high heavens." The two Swanis immediately turned the carriage around and rose into the sky, galloping back into the west. On the carriage, the maiden in green asked, "Star Sovereign, why are we returning just like this?" Star Sovereign Xiao didn't say a word, but suddenly grunted. Droplets of blood dripped down from the carriage and landed in the forest of great ruins that was below them. Wherever the fresh blood landed, flowers would bloom in the entire mountain and plants would grow in a frenzy. They spread until they covered the whole mountain. Whoosh! The imperial canopy fell backward and dropped into great ruins, scattering all the jades and pearls in the wilderness. Star Sovereign Xiao's face was slightly pale as he said solemnly, "No need to pick them up. Return to high heavens as soon as possible." The four maidens were shocked and the two Swanis increased their speed as they galloped toward the west. At the gate of disabled elderly village, the recliner swayed when the chair split into pieces. Village Chief fell to the ground and called out in a hoarse voice, "Apothecary, apothecary." Apothecary ran out in a panic and grumbled, "Still want to put up a strong front, when you don't even have any limbs, serves you right. Stop moving, let me check on your injuries first." Apothecary diagnosed Village Chief and grumbled, "One's muscles and bones are not as capable when they are old, what's more, you don't even have muscles and bones already. Stubbornly wanted to show off, didn't you? Happy now?" Village Chief panted heavily. "His injuries are heavier than mine. I have fought basically all of the strong practitioners of high heavens before. Look at how capable you are." Apothecary used needles to suppress his injuries and shook his head. "Didn't you still get your limbs severed by someone with a sword? When I passed the position of the human emperor to Qin Mu, I knew that such a day would come when people would come to find Mua." Village Chief gaze became faint as he looked away. "High heavens will not tolerate the existence of a human emperor. I was already old and disabled, so they didn't pay any attention to me. However, they will definitely get rid of the new human emperor. Star Sovereign Xiao is one of the very best in high heavens, so I had to intercept him and make him back off. This way, it won't be strong practitioners like him that will come after Mua. They have to follow by the rules, and if they try to go around them, I will force them to follow the rules." Apothecary prescribed medicine for him as he said, "So what happens after you die? Will they still go according to the rules?" Village chief was silent for a moment before revealing a sudden smile. A human emperor while alive, and a ghost hero when dead. My life can be extinguished, but my will to battle will last forever. It's probably time for you to go out for a walk. Apothecary shuddered and shook his head. I'm not going out, whoever that wants to go out can go out. In West Earth Divine Mountain, Star Sovereign Xiao's carriage landed, and the Star Sovereign mustered his vital qi with difficulty. Just as he was about to return back to high heavens, he vomited blood, and the injuries on his body instantly split apart. He raised his hand with difficulty at the four maidens. Light the incenses. The four maidens were astonished, and the maiden in green hurriedly took out 3 sticks of incense, lighting them up on the altar. After a moment, a face appeared in the sky looking down. I've met the old human emperor, Star Sovereign Xiao said while gasping for breath. Even though he's old and handicapped, he is not yet dead. His abilities have increased tremendously, and I was injured by him. His intention is that if the older generation goes to find the new human emperor, he will definitely take things into his own hands. However, he won't interfere if it's the younger generation. He's still alive. The face revealed an astonished expression, as its faint voice floated in the air. Star Sovereign, who do you plan on sending from high heavens to get rid of the new human emperor? Young Master Shu Xinghua. That face in the sky became slightly grave. Is there a need to mobilize young Master Shu? Star Sovereign Xiao nodded. The old fellow is old and is close to death. The new human emperor is still young and not yet mature. Getting rid of the new human emperor can cut short our troubles forever. A beam of light descended from the sky and shone on Star Sovereign Xiao's body, forming a road from light. The face in the sky said, Young Master Shu might not be willing to leave the mountain, you will have to tell it to him personally. Star Sovereign Xiao said to the four maidens, Yu, Qing, Yao, Jing, stay here and bring along my 4 treasures to support young Master Shu in killing the new human emperor. I shall return to high heavens, but young Master Shu will come down soon. The 4 maidens acknowledged his words and walked down from the carriage. The 2 Swanis pulled onto the ruined carriage and rose into the sky along the road of light, returning back to high heavens. When the light vanished, the 4 maidens looked at one another, and Yu Liu said, Old Master has instructed us to follow young Master Shu to kill the new human emperor, but we still don't know who is the new human emperor. Jin Yang said, This news was spread out by Roland's Golden Palace, so we will have to take a trip there. Qing Ying, Yao Hua, visit that place, Yu Liu and I shall wait here for young Master Shu. The 2 other girls nodded and went down the mountain. They didn't walk into great ruins, but instead crossed West Earth, the flaming desert, and the Snow Mountains plateau, heading straight to Roland's Golden Palace. Without Star Sovereign Xiao, they didn't dare to step into great ruins directly. In the East Sea, Qin Mu, Sai Yinxiang, and Ling Yuxiu were drifting on the water. When it came to night time, the surface of the sea suddenly glowed. It came from countless special fish that came to the surface, lighting up the sea like jewels. Qin Mu controlled the waves to move forward, and the glowing fish leaped out from his waves one after another. As he moved forward, the fish also hurried with the waves, making it quite interesting. Some fish had 2 feelers growing from their forehead, at the end of which were transparent lumps of flesh that were the size of a fist. These lumps were like lanterns which gave off a faint glow at night, so these creatures were known as lantern fish. The lantern fish grew fins that were like wings. When they rushed out of the waves, they would shake their 4 fins to fly dozens of yards in the air before landing back into the water. These strange fish would sometimes swim with the trio, floating beside them to light up the sea for them. At times, some huge fish that were 3 to 6 yards long also came, flapping their fins to look at them curiously. Sai Yinxiang was still a kid at heart, so once she saw that the huge lantern fish had some intelligence, she wanted to play with them and started teaching them to talk, word by word. Out of her expectations, a few of the huge fish actually managed to learn a sentence or two and speak the human language. On their way, the group passed by the territory of a sea tribe, and numerous maidens floated out from the water. They waved their tails, swimming to and fro around the waves and singing a melodious love song. The song they were singing was about two maidens liking the same youth and all the feelings and moods of the girls. There were also a few giant clams and conches that had turned into spirits, clapping their shells to accompany the song. Ling Yuxiu and Sai Yinxiang became shy after listening to the song by the maidens of the sea tribe. They secretly glanced at the youth beside them and couldn't help feeling slightly furious. They discovered that Qin Mu wasn't hurrying on his way with his full attention. Instead, he was in a daze, his heart not focused on hurrying, but neither was he listening to the melodious song from the maidens of the sea tribe. He was focused on comprehending his path. They didn't know what he was comprehending. Even though there was a smile on his face, his heart wasn't set on the beautiful scenery in front of him nor on the girls beside him. Qin Mu had been trying to comprehend unity technique of 6 directions realm for the entire journey, and he finally reached the crucial period in the last few days. This scoundrel, he deserves to be alone for the rest of his life. The two girls were furious. Dao Master allowed Qin Mu to comprehend Dao Sword for 14 days, and he reaped quite the reward. Even though Dao Sword was made of sword skills, the mathematical reasonings and sword reasonings in it seemed to be able to merge into numerous techniques, thus it was worth to learn from it. Another hour later, Qin Mu's vital qi gradually weakened, and the speed of the waves going forward also slowed. They gradually shrunk down. Ling Yuxiu immediately took over and executed her spell, making a water dragon carry the 3 of them forward. Qin Mu, on the other hand, relaxed while standing on the water dragon, letting Ling Yuxiu bring him along. 6 directions divine treasure was a huge improvement to cultivating people, and no matter if it was spells, sword skills, or battle techniques, all of them would be raised to the level of divine arts. This multiplied their power by several times. At this realm, the techniques had to be able to link spirit embryo, 5 elements, and 6 directions divine treasures together to mobilize the energy in these 3 great divine treasures. Qin Mu's Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique was a technique, but had no skills. Woodcutter's teachings had skills, but no path. Great educational heavenly devil scriptures covered everything in the world but lacked unity. However, the 3 of them together could form an entire body. Yet Qin Mu wanted more. He wanted the transformations of 9 dragons monarch technique, the stability of Rulai's Mahayana Sutra, as well as the maths of Dao Sword to be incorporated into his technique. 9 dragons monarch technique was proficient in transformations, and Emperor Yang Feng had imparted this technique to him and even guided him in cultivation. Even though the time Qin Mu had cultivated this technique was short, he had already understood the true essence of this technique's transformations. The transformations of 9 dragons monarch technique could be said to lie in one's heart. The divine dragons had myriad transformations, and through them, the sword skills, spells, and battle techniques of the other sects could all be executed. The moves could be fierce and strong, but also soft and gentle. Rulai's Mahayana Sutra was proficient in stability. Old Rulai had not personally taught Qin Mu this technique, but he had allowed him to enter heaven's cloisters to comprehend. Qin Mu had gone through all 20 cloisters of them, which meant he had mastered Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. There were 20 heavens in Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. The blessings from the gods and devils from there allowed one to be incomparably stable, unmovable like Mount Meru. Dao Sword was proficient in algebra, using mathematical reasonings to explain the nature of heaven and earth and the great Dao. When it came to the 14th sword, it was already close to Dao. If these 3 techniques could be mastered via comprehensive studies and combined into one, merging their advantages with unity technique, Qin Mu would definitely improve by leaps and bounds once again. However, For the past few days, he had focused his mind on this, yet his returns were few. The techniques he wanted to merge were all top-notch, and each and every one of them were all-inclusive. They were the ultimate arts of their sect, and were all supreme ultimate arts of a sacred ground. If they could all be merged, wouldn't it result in the number one technique in the world? I got a little greedy. Qin Mu suddenly felt like he was wasting time on an unsolvable problem. These techniques were already perfected, so if he really wanted to merge them, it was impossible for him to do so with his current knowledge. That being the case, why did it have to be so troublesome? What I want is the reasonings behind these techniques, and this being the case, why do I have to merge the techniques? Wouldn't it be easier to merge their reasonings? Among the beautiful night scenery on the sea, he was suddenly enlightened and felt his frame of mind relax. He also felt the sea and the girls beside him becoming more charming and moving. Trying to merge the techniques was something he couldn't do. Besides, doing so would neglect the fundamentals by concentrating on the details. On top of that, merging reasonings and not techniques was much easier. Once he came around to this point, he no longer insisted on his path, but instead became free from nature, cultivating however he felt comfortable. Once they crossed the territory of the sea tribe, the sea became much quieter. A huge turtle floated over and offered to carry them on their way. This turtle had attainments in cultivation, and floated on the sea surface like a small island. As he swam toward the west, he inquired them about some problems he faced during cultivation. Qin Mu and the two girls told him everything they knew and solved many doubts he had. The old turtle was very happy and invited them as guests. Qin Mu asked in curiosity, "Where is old Mister's home? Where do we go to be guests?" "The four seas are my home, but even though I say so, there are some children living on my back." When the old turtle said this, numerous turtles surfed up on the waves and leaped onto the back of the old turtle. "Lights?" The old turtle smiled and the huge luminous pearls on the turtle shell lighted up, making the island on the turtle's back brightly lit. The small turtles stood up on their two hind flippers and started dancing and singing around Qin Mu, Ling Yuxiu, and Sai Yinxiang. They slapped their bellies and shells as they danced and sang. Sai Yinxiang pulled Qin Mu to join in the singing and dancing on the island, and after fooling around for a moment, Qin Mu also pulled Ling Yuxiu up. The princess was still slightly reserved at first, but she soon joined them. The night of celebration went by fast, and when the day broke, the old turtle said, "We have reached land, farewell, my friends." Qin Mu looked up ahead and saw a land not far away. The city and the harbor were shrouded in early spring morning mist. The trio jumped from the turtle's back and landed on the harbor. "Goodbye." The small turtles waved at them. "Goodbye." Qin Mu also waved back at them. When the old turtle disappeared, they walked into River Prefecture City. "What a charming sea," Ling Yuxiu said with a soft voice. Sai Yinxiang's gaze was still blurry. "What an enthralling night at sea, however, after stepping on land, we have returned back to the mortal world." In the sky above the sacrificial altar on the divine mountain in West Earth, flowing light poured forth. After a moment, the eyes of Jing Yang and Yu Liu lighted up when they saw an exquisite-looking youth walking out. His expression was slightly cold, but when his gaze landed on the two maidens, they became secretly bashful. "Young Master Shu, Star Sovereign Qiao has ordered us sisters to assist young master in getting rid of the new human emperor. Yao Hua and Qingying have gone to Roland's Golden Palace to scout out news of the human emperor." Yu Liu said softly, "Young master, let us go meet up with them now." Shu Xinghua nodded gently and said, "We should settle this matter as soon as possible, since I want to return to high heavens. This mortal world provokes dispute, and is not a good place for a long stay." Jing Yang smiled. "Young master, there are some extraordinary and unusual people in this mortal world and they can't be underestimated. The human emperor is the enemy of our high heavens and has been against us for many years, so he won't be eliminated that easily. Xu Xinghua walked down the mountain in his white clothing that was untainted by even a speck of dust. There are some abnormalities in the mortal world, like Little Jade Capital, Great Thunderclap Monastery, Tao Sect, Heavenly Saint Cult, Middle Earth. Among these sacred grounds, there are experts that are no weaker than West Earth. I won't underestimate them, nor will I underestimate the human emperor. I would like to take a look at the places that scare these existences, but the mortal world doesn't match with my nature, so it's best to return as soon as possible. The two girls immediately caught up to him. Since I've already come down, I will have to visit all the sacred grounds in Middle Earth, Xu Xinghua said. I want to see how their divine arts, paths, and skills have developed. Also, the reform of Eternal Peace Empire is like a wildfire, so I will also have to take a look. My master, Jade Sovereign, had sent a disaster on an order and was injured by the saint that appears once every 500 years. I would very much like to see how this saint that appears once every 500 years looks. The two girls looked at each other, worried slightly. In River Prefecture City, an official said in a fluster, when His Highness learned that Cult Master Qin wasn't in any danger, he left to settle affairs in other prefectures. Which prefecture is he at now? Ling Yuxiu asked. His Highness left for Snivel Prefecture, but it was quite some time ago, so I do not know in which prefecture he is at now. Qin Mu nodded and said, I'll let my cult's disciple scout out news, and I should know where they are soon. After resting in River Prefecture, and eating some food to fill their stomachs, Heavenly Devil Cult I came to report. His Highness has reached Bent Prefecture. Qin Mu opened up the geographic map of Eternal Peace and glanced at it. In that case, the Crown Prince's next destination should be Peaceful Prefecture. His speed is quite fast. Ling Yuxiu had headed south first and reached River Tomb, before going west along Gold River. This should have been to manage the irrigation works along the way. Even though Ling Yuxiu didn't have the bold and decisive spirit of Emperor Yangfeng, he was quite a professional at handling the irrigation works and transportations in all parts of the empire. With the help of the people from Ministry of Works, his speed was very fast. Furthermore, he was different from the previous Crown Prince Ling Yuxia. He didn't want to snatch authority, and this made Emperor Yangfeng very reassured. With the help of Fan Yunxiao, Ling Yuxiu's speed was unmatched. When Qin Mu took the two girls to catch up to them, they took half a month to reach it, and Ling Yuxiu had long left Peaceful Prefecture, and reached Mill Prefecture in the west. Mill Prefecture was not far from Great Thunderclap Monastery, some 1,000 miles away. When they reached that place, Ling Yuxiu finally saw her brother, and her eyes turned red. It was obvious that he had been very exhausted these days and had become much thinner. Beast Qin didn't do anything to you, right? Ling Yuxiu asked her secretly. Ling Yuxiu was embarrassed and angry as she said while fuming, Brother, what are you thinking? Saint Xiong was also around. Ling Yuxiu laughed dryly. Aren't I just worried about your safety? Beast Qin. Ling Yuxiu gave him a stare. He's the sacred cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult, and you only took the position of the previous crown prince after he killed him. Be careful of him hearing you call him a beast and killing you off as well, leaving me to be the crown prince. Ling Yuxiu became resentful. Protecting a man that isn't even yours yet, and being fierce even to your brother. That's right. Great Thunderclap Monastery is nearby, and I've sent orders to retrieve the land of Great Thunderclap Monastery back to the Empire. Since we are close to the monastery, you have to be careful. There have been eminent monks coming to find me to beg. Ling Yuxiu's gaze flickered. They are asking for the land back. Ling Yuxiu nodded. The lands of Great Thunderclap Monastery are the best agricultural lands nearby, and since Great Thunderclap Monastery rebelled and plotted to kill the emperor to appoint another emperor, I took back their lands. I didn't eradicate them ruthlessly, yet they keep coming to beg again and again, Herr. I'm only out this time to manage the irrigation works and people, but this place will delay me for some time. Just as he was saying that, a clear voice came from outside. Poor monk is here to beg. Ling Yushu didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he walked out. Qin Mu also followed him and saw a thin monk, with a wax-yellow face holding onto a devil-subduing alms bowl sitting before them. A few soldiers wanted to carry him away, but couldn't lift him up no matter what. Poor monk will only beg for an alms bowl size of land, may Crown Prince give alms. The monk saw the Crown Prince coming out and lowered his eyelids. Your alms bowl should be the devil-subduing alms bowl of the previous Rulai in Great Thunderclap Monastery, right? Ling Yushu sneered. This would be a cult legacy treasure, if placed in other sects, and an alms bowl size of land would probably be equal to the territory of Great Thunderclap Monastery, some several hundred miles of land. Monk, you are not ordinary, otherwise, you wouldn't have a cult legacy level treasure with you. At that moment, the monk suddenly saw Qin Mu and raised his eyebrows. Heavenly Devil Cult Master. Qin Mu smiled and acknowledged him, but the monk didn't have a pleasant expression. In the battle at Imperial City's Temple of Heaven, many experts of Great Thunderclap Monastery and Dao Sect had died or been severely injured. Many of the top-notch experts were slaughtered by Heavenly Devil Cult, and there were numerous eminent monks and old Taoists of Divine Bridge Realm that had lost their lives. So there was a great loss in power for the monks. If not for this, how could Ling Yushu have retrieved the lands of Great Thunderclap Monastery? That yellow-faced monk didn't say much and hurried away. Ling Yushu looked at Qin Mu and said in a low voice, "The monk left without even begging. So he must be going back to call reinforcements to find trouble with you. You have to be careful." Qin Mu shook his head. "Don't worry, Rulai won't pay attention to him." The yellow-faced monk was as fast as lightning as he hurried back to Great Thunderclap Monastery. When he reached the Golden Peak, he saw that the place was solemn and respectful. All the abbots of the various cloisters were gathered at the moment. Some abbots were in sorrow, and there were even teacher poor, and the rest observing the ceremony. Old Rulai was currently hosting a huge ceremony, and had taken off his kasaya and grass shoes. All the various treasures on his body were also taken off, and his body was relaxed. Monk Jingming stood behind him, quiet. This? The heart of the yellow-faced monk trembled violently, and old Rulai turned around to look at him with a smile. "Junior brother Nan Yi, my time is near and I am now resigning from the position of Rulai. With my body free, I plan to go out for a walk, to quietly wait for the Great Awakening and Nirvana. After I achieve perfect awakening, Jingming will bring my corporeal body back, and allow it to continue protecting Great Thunderclap Monastery, and promote Buddhism." The heart of the yellow-faced monk was in grief, but it wasn't good for him to show it. Rulai is a realm, it cannot be pushed away nor returned. Old Rulai smiled. "What I return is the revered one of the world of Great Thunderclap Monastery." "Then who will succeed as Rulai?" the yellow-faced monk Nanyi asked. Old Rulai pointed at the seat of revered one of the world and smiled. "Whoever will become a Rulai will take this seat. Those that are not Rulai won't be able to sit there. Don't you worry, there will be a Rulai that will sit there. My Dao friend is here, I'm off." Nanyi still wanted to ask questions, but old Rulai walked away and went down the mountain. Nanyi was stunned as he looked at the seat of revered one of the world. Below the mountain, an old and a young Daoist were resting their legs next to the mountain gate. "Dao Master, Daozi." Old Rulai and monk Jingming went forward to greet the two travelers. Daozi Lin Xian, an old Dao Master, hurriedly got up to return the greeting. Old Dao Master smiled. You're free. Old Rulai nodded and smiled. I'm free. Let us go. The two sect masters of the two biggest righteous sacred grounds looked at each other and smiled while saying in unison, you have also aged. Old Tao Master sighed. I want to take a look at Little Jade Capital. I heard there are immortals there that live freely and without worry. They are then people who have truly achieved the Tao. I will like to go to Great Ruins first, said Old Rulai. Old Tao Master took a glance at him. Even though you aren't revered one of the world anymore, you still can't let Great Thunderclap Monastery go. Aren't you the same as well? Old Rulai smiled. Since you've already resigned from the position of Tao Master, why are you still bringing little Tao Master along? Aren't you trying to groom him more before you leave to become an immortal? Old Tao Master sighed and said, we'll go to Great Ruins first. The four people walked toward Great Ruins. Not long after they left, a young master brought four maidens, who were all wearing different colored dresses. They were also carrying different items, like a jade vase, a guqin, a sword, and a peeper, as they came to the mountain gate. They looked at the monk receiving them at the gate and said, Young Master Shu Xinghua from High Heavens has come forth to visit. High Heavens. The heart of the monk receiving them trembled, and he immediately went up the mountain to report. When he reached the top of the mountain, the expression of Monk Nan Yi and the rest changed drastically. They were all slightly flustered. What should we do now that people from High Heavens have come? Rulai's position is now vacant, so who has the qualifications to receive the esteemed guests from High Heavens? Don't panic first, Monk Nan Yi said. Let's invite this young master Shu Xinghua up first. No, we should all go and welcome him, don't forget your etiquette. All of the monks went down the mountain and saw a young master with four beauties standing at the mountain gate, all of whom looked extraordinary. Nan Yi went forth and said, Amitabha. You are not Rulai. Shu Xinghua's gaze was like lightning when it landed on the monk's face while he shook his head. Rulai have no need to chant the names of Buddha. Where's Rulai? This, Monk Nan Yi said. Revered one of the world, has just resigned and there's no Rulai in Great Thunderclap Monastery today. Shu Xinghua turned around and left, leaving the crowd of monks behind him. The four maidens immediately went up, and Yu Liu in green asked, Why does young master not want to go to Great Thunderclap Monastery? Shu Xinghua shook his head. Old Rulai resigned, yet there's no new Rulai, which means that he felt that none of the monks on the entire mountain were worth to be Rulai. So he just left like this. Since Rulai is not satisfied with the monks on his mountain, why should I go and see their abilities? Qin Ying smiled. So young master despises them. Young master, we saw the shamans of Roland's Golden Palace, when we went there, yet we didn't see any figures worth seeing. Even their grandmaster was merely so, avoiding to meet young master, and being cowardly before even fighting. This time, there also isn't any worthy person to meet in Great Thunderclap Monastery, so should we go to Tao Sect now? Shu Xinghua nodded and said, Tao Sect has 14 Tao swords, and my master said that Tao swords are very extraordinary. It's worth to take a look. They came to Mil Prefecture, and went upstream Gold River. They found a ship and prepared to head down the river, when they saw a youth measuring the depth of the river at its heart. The youth used his vital qi as a ruler. With a wave of his hand, trails of vital qi went straight into the river, and he would report the depth each time he did that. Beside him was an official recording the measurements with a brush. Shu Xinghua stopped the boat and looked at that youth as he stood quietly. The youth seemed to notice this and looked over at him, giving off a radiant smile that revealed his white teeth. This gave a pleasant feeling. Shu Xinghua felt his emotions influenced and smiled back in greeting. The hearts of the four girls beside him melted when they saw his smile. Young master actually smiled. Shu Xinghua saluted the youth in the river and asked, this senior brother, could we have a small chat on the ship? Please wait a moment, senior brother, let me finish handling the hydrographic surveys. Xu Shenghua waited for a moment, and when the youth had finished handling the hydrographic surveys, he boarded the ship and the two of them greeted each other before sitting down. This video will end here.